I wasn't even going to make any haters guides for anywhere on the East Coast because it feels like beating a dead horse. And then I skied Stowe, and boy do I have some words for Vail Resorts. I suppose this is what happens when Vail meets Vermont. What could possibly go wrong? Alright, it's been a while since we've done an individual resort haters guide, and I suspect a lot of y'all will be new viewers, so you guys get to behold the auditive disclaimer. Yes, I am aware that a lot of this video is inaccurate. This is because many statements in this video are made up or exaggerated for effect. None of this video is based in fact, and it is not intended to be interpreted as such. This is not an overarching review of Stowe, but rather an embellished satire intended to amuse and entertain. No hate is intended, and this video should not be used to promote any sort of hate against any aspect of the ski industry. Don't take life too seriously. Now, before we jump fully in, let's set the context. For the record, this entire experience occurred on a weekday, not a weekend, not a holiday, not a powder day. Yes, it was fair weather, but it was not anything special. This day had a little bit of wind and a little bit of ice buildup from the previous night. These are simple, trivial things, but yet, Vail being Vail, they decided not to open their flagship gondola all day. De-icing was done on all of the lifts by 11. Gore, Whiteface, and Killington's gondolas operated in twice the wind a week prior. But yet, they just couldn't be bothered to open their most famous lift? What kind of customer experience is that? Vail's out here making more excuses than the kids whose dog ate their homework. Oldie but goodie. Also all throughout the day, Lookout was allegedly on hold. Yeah, right. Not a soul touched that lift all day. You honestly might as well have said the gondola was on hold, because even though you had no intention of ever trying to open it either, at least then you could have instilled the sense of false hope in your guests that your company uses as currency. Oh, and just so this is on record as well, about 3 days before I came, everything except Adventure was closed. But at 7 in the morning, guess what their lift status showed? It showed all lifts as expected. A freaking penguin from Antarctica could have told you that the lifts would not be operating with the forecasted 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts. But instead, Vail decided to trick all their unknowing guests into coming, thinking they would get a nice ski day, only for them to discover everything was closed after they'd already wasted their day. I really hope that they gave at least partial refunds for that, but I have a gut feeling that they didn't. You knew everything would be closed, but you still wrote that it would operate in your report, bringing a bunch of people to the mountain who got a whole lot of nothing except a wasted day and disappointment. I think I would rather have the management of the New York Giants running the place, because I don't think they could do much worse of a job, and that's saying something. I have a new slogan idea for you. Vail Resorts. Never fail to disappoint. Management at a ski resort happens across many different levels, but apparently at Stowe, it doesn't happen across any level at all. Because with that gondola closure, everybody was stuck over at Forerunner, which led to a long line. And complaining about a long line seems too easy, but when you don't even bother to open half the maze and then have people overflowing out, blocking the traverse through, then I think I have a right to complain. The maze design is called a shotgun lift maze because, like a shotgun, it leaves a whole lot of collateral damage in its wake. But when you can't even be bothered to staff the lift maze, it just turns into a free-for-all at a Black Friday sale. Everyone's bumping into each other, nobody knows what's going on, and you're just praying to make it out alive. A few years ago, you built a new six-pack to help augment Forerunner. Only one issue. The lift's location only serves about 4 trails, which are now the most dangerous trails on the mountain because of how overcrowded they are. You could have replaced Lookout or Toll House, both of which have painful 15+ minute ride times. You could have done so much else, but instead, you decided to take some of the best blues on the mountain and turn them into the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. Pretty sure the Big Dig was more beneficial. Had to throw in something for both cities, you know. If you're from Boston or New York City, let's hear it in the comments. Oh, and one more for the road. The Sunrise 6 paint scheme genuinely looks like some wallpaper pulled straight out of Grandma's basement. Alright, just a few more things on management before we get to the on-mountain behaviors I saw to finish off. First off, both Birch Glades and Chapel Glades were closed online, but they were open in person. Online, Lower Gulch and Lower Gondolier were both open, but they were closed in person. Please, tell me honestly, is it that damn hard to keep your trail status up to date? I guess the person in charge of that is working exactly as hard as they're being paid for, huh, Vail? Additionally, this isn't Vail's fault, but it's still funny because the Mansfield Lodge is so outdated that it has about 25 seats and genuinely looks like it was built out of Lincoln logs. The principle of paid parking on peak days makes sense, to discourage single occupancy vehicles and blah blah blah, but paid parking on weekdays too, when we all know you wouldn't fill the lots anyway? Now that's just a cash grab, Vail. And unlike at Vail Mountain, where the reason is the town itself, as far as I can tell, you just want more of our money in your pockets. Inconceivable. And of course, not a Vail thing, but while every other ski resort builds a nice parking garage or spreads out parking locations across multiple villages, what does Stowe do? Clear out this entire freaking valley, because nothing says a relaxing day shoosing through nature quite like rolling up to a concrete jungle to start. Now, the people at Stowe are the perfect examples of literally everything not to do at a ski resort. For example, how about these people just asking to get hit, standing right in the middle of a trail below a roller that reduces visibility to almost none? That's about as smart as standing in front of a moving train because it'll probably stop. Or how about these ones blocking the entire maze area at sunrise? And oh yeah, all the lifts are constantly stopped because apparently nobody can unload a chairlift. To be fair, it doesn't help that there are a gazillion people blocking the ramp instead of moving out of the way, and it's not like any employees care enough to actually leave their little shack and tell them to move it. And now for the pièce de résistance. Let's take a look at this video I took on Bypass, the only open double black on the day of this experience. Here we got skiers pizzaing and snowboarders side-slipping and even a few legitimately sliding down on their asses. This is video proof of people getting way in over their head, because I guess experts only must have been written in French or something, since it seems I was the only person on the mountain capable of reading it. There's not a ton to dig on Spruce, but there's a few things. Due to its nature as the easier mountain, you have the world's flattest unloading ramps at Sunny Spruce and Sensation. It honestly doesn't feel right to even call them ramps. They're as much of ramps as a sidewalk in the mall. All day long, Main Street was closed for quote-unquote racing, but there was never a single racer on that hill the whole day. And finally, these over-easy stations are located in the stupidest locations possible, which doesn't make sense because last I checked, the gondola went in before the buildings, so there was no reason to build it a half marathon away from the actual slopes. At the Sunny Spruce lift, I got my pass scanned just like usual all day long, which I've never had any hiccups with. But for some reason, at 3:30, on a lift I'd already lapped like 4 times, the guy scanning felt the need to pull me aside and question me. This is a guy who had already scanned me before, and it wasn't just a "what's your name" confirmation. No, I got the whole step aside, what's your name, age, birthday, take off your goggles so we can cross-reference your picture, and so on. I guess there's probably a price on my head for all the slander against Vail Resorts or something. So yeah, if you thought the nice, peaceful mountains of the East Coast were immune to Vail's ice-cold grip, think again. Skiing at Stowe is the ski industry's equivalent of paying for a 5-star meal and getting served a microwave burrito. But all that being said, I'd like to make one final reiteration that this one bad day is not at all a conclusive look at the Stowe experience. If you want to know what it's really like, take a visit for yourself. Thank you all for watching. All my love, I'm out.